start the video. We're in 23, but I want to go back to something that I neglected to mention, and that is from chapter 20, verse 22, through 23, verse 35. That is referred to by most biblical scholars as the Book of the Covenant. Those are that. Remember, we were reading all those separate laws, Mishpatim, the Jewish laws, and this is pretty much universally agreed that this was a late ad. That, certainly God wasn't going to give them all this stuff. They had nothing to write on. I mean, you can remember the 10 Commandments. At least you can get 8 out of the 10. But, all this other stuff just seems to drone on and on. And it's actually divided into 2 sections from verse 22 of chapter 20, which begins almost immediately following the giving of the 10 Commandments. And it runs through 21:36. That's the first half, and it's introduced by saying, God said to Moses, give this message to the people of Israel. You've experienced firsthand how I spoke with you from heaven. And then he goes on to don't make gods out of idols and things like that. The second half begins at verse 21, or verse 37 of chapter 21. And that's the last verse in chapter 21. And this starts dealing with the servants. If you damage somebody's cow or whatever, an ox, so those become, the first part, God is saying to Moses, say this to the people. And the second part really does seem more like an outgrowth. Things like if someone grazes livestock in a field or a vineyard, but lets them loose so they graze in someone else's field, restitution must be made. I mean, that's dealing with, something kind of out of somebody's control. You might say this would be accidental. The first one, you'd have to be specific. If you have an animal that gouges someone, then you got to be responsible for that. But if, like in verse 7, if someone gives a neighbor money or things for safekeeping, and they are stolen from the neighbor's house, the thief, if caught, must pay back double. If the thief is not caught, the owner must be brought before God to determine whether the owner was the one who took the neighbor's goods. It's kind of like, if you're doing something for someone and it doesn't work out, we're not going to hold you liable.
Where's your 2 little things that swirl around? The little cameras.
Oh, the microphones.
Yeah.
I didn't set them up.
Oh, they're microphones.
Yeah, who cares what you say? This actually has a built-in 4 built-in microphones. So, now we're at chapter 23.
Yes. Okay.
Go ahead. Let's hear the words.
You shall not bear a false report. Do not join your hand with a wicked man to be a malicious witness. You shall not follow the masses in doing evil, nor shall you testify in a dispute so as to turn aside after a multitude in order to prevent justice. Nor shall you be partial to a poor man in his dispute. If you meet your enemy, ox or his donkey wandering away, you shall surely return it to him. If you see the donkey of one who hates you lying helpless under its load, you shall refrain from leading it to him. You shall surely release it with him. You shall not prevent the justice due to your needy brother in his dispute. Keep far from a false charge, and do not kill the innocent or the righteous, for I will not acquit the guilty. You shall not take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the clear-sighted and subverts the cause of the just. You shall not oppress a stranger, since you yourselves know the feelings of a stranger, for you also were strangers in the land of Egypt. The Sabbath and the land. You shall sow your land for 6 years and gather it in its yield. But on the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie fallow, so that the needy of your people may eat, and whatever they leave, the beasts of the field may eat. You are to do the same with your vineyard and your olive grove. 6 days you are to do your work, but on the 7th day you shall cease from labor, so that your ox and your donkey may rest, and the son of your female slave, as well as your stranger, may refresh themselves. Now concerning everything which I have said to you, be on your guard, and do not mention the name of the other gods, nor let them be heard from your mouth.
Okay, let's pause there. Obviously, God has already told us he's a jealous God. He doesn't even want the names of the other gods on the lips of the Hebrew people. You know, don't mention it. Now, they actually don't mention God Yahweh, because to know someone's name implies a special relationship. So instead of saying Yahweh, Kathy, what do they say?
Got a mouthful.
Lord Almighty. Lord Almighty.
No. There's another.
Yahweh. No, they say Adonai.
Adonai. Now, what do we call, when you leave crops, for 6 years you gather crops, but in the 7th year you leave it alone, and it says don't take, when you do a harvest, don't take it right to the edge of the field. You leave some there. What do we call the people who come in and pick that up?
Gleaners.
Gleaners. And I notice now that on a wheat harvest, they don't drive those combines right to the edge of the field. But we don't have gleaners out picking them up.
You may have the ones that make things.
Oh yeah, wheat weaving people.
Wheat, yeah, they may go out and grab it.
In chapter or verse 11, I guess, it says, "What they leave, let the wildlife have."
Yeah, it said that here. Sure did.
The wildlife. Oh.
Or beast of the field.
Oh.
They call it letting the earth rest, it being fallow. They still talk about that when they don't plant crop,
Right.
don't put a crop in, they let the lying fallow.
And farmers today still do that.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
They rotate the crop to help keep the bugs down.
you've got to leave the field so it
Well,
can
and it
natural
also
nutrients.
doesn't, if they, by rotating the crops, they ensure that all the nutrients will be used because different crops use different nutrients.
That's right.
If you keep the same crop in the same field all the time, eventually it won't work.
That's right.
That was a problem down south with the boll weevil and cotton. They planted cotton every year, and then the boll weevil would come along and destroy the whole field.
Well, that was part of it. The other thing is cotton really saps the soil.
Uh-huh.
And you know, if you plant cotton, it's going to eat. You got to put a lot of nutrients back in the soil. So, all right. Now, let's find out what you're supposed to do for festivals.
Okay. 3 national feasts. 3 times a year you shall celebrate a feast to me. You shall observe the feast of the unleavened bread for 7 days. You are to eat unleavened bread as I commanded you at the appointed time in the month of
Abib.
Abib. For in it you came out of Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty-handed.
Okay. That's the festival of the bread. What else is celebrated during that time?
The Seder meal.
Passover. The first day of that festival is Passover. Okay, now let's go to the second.
Also you shall observe the feast of the harvest, of the first fruits of your labors from what you sow in the field. Also the feast of the ingathering at the end of the year, when you gather in the fruit of your labors from the field. 3 times a year all your males shall appear before the Lord God.
Okay, let's pause there just for a brief moment. What do we call that autumn festival?
Halloween.
Thanksgiving.
That one too.
We're going to start thinking you're a part of the wicked. Thanksgiving. And Canada also has a Thanksgiving. Ours is in November, theirs is in October, which really is at the end of their harvest.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is long past the harvest. I don't know, But all religions or nationalities have some kind of Thanksgiving where they're thankful for the crops. So these 3 festivals, 2 of the 3 fall on harvest: the summer harvest and the autumn harvest. So those are the 3 things, or the 3 times that they have to have a worship to God. And 3 times a year, all your males are to appear before the Master God. This is still pretty much true in Jewish temples, that for Passover and for these other festivals, all the Jews go to synagogue or temple. The rest of the time, they're like Episcopalians and Lutherans. They might be there, they might not. And they buy seats in the synagogue. And when, somebody, this is always funny, in our churches, when somebody shows up and they're sitting where somebody has always sat, they get stared at. And, it's real close to Sheldon on the Big Bang Theory, where Sheldon says, "You're in my seat."
What I always think is entertaining when someone that never comes sits in the front seat and they're looking around to see what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting back ways where they can see what other people are
That's right. I remember one time back in Michigan, I was on vacation, and I went to a church up in Gaylord, Michigan. A friend of mine was the pastor there. And I went in and sat down with my wife and with Christina, my daughter, and this guy came up, looked at me, and then they went around the other side and came in the same pew but from the other side. When it came time to pass the peace, I said, peace of the Lord be always with you. And I said, oh, I think I'm in your seat. He said, that's okay, just don't make a habit of it. And I said, I think I know you. You're Fred Bear. Fred Bear was Native American, but he also owned an archery company. And
Okay, yeah.
every kid who read a comic book saw an ad for Fred Bear in the back of it. And it was him. Really just a very nice guy. And I said, well, if it helps him, I am also a priest. He goes, well, then you can sit anywhere you want. I didn't feel comfortable enough to ask him for a bow and arrow. But anyway, but this happens in temples. You buy your seat. You don't care who sits there the rest of the time. But when it comes time for Passover, you want that seat.
Originally, in this country, the Anglicans, that's what they did. You bought a seat, you paid a yearly fee for it.
Well, you bought a box,
Yeah,
not a seat. These
these
seats-
had seats in them.
these boxes had seats in them, and that's where
The electric warmer in there.
yeah. Well, they'd bring coals in a container and put them in there to warm their feet. And at Christ Church, Philadelphia, one of those boxes is roped off. You can't sit in there. That was President Washington's box. And so they prevent anyone from.
I have a friend from down in Louisiana that he's black, which is neither here nor there. He's one of my best friends ever. But his mother passed away, and I don't think she'd ever miss a Sunday. And they shrouded her seat for 1 full year. There was a shroud on it,
Yeah,
and we could sit there.
yeah. I mean, at one time, your seat was your seat.
Yeah.
Especially when they were in boxes, because they could close the door to the box so no one could get in.
I always feel awkward when we have the joint service, at 10:15. So I have to introduce myself as a visitor from the church at 8 o'clock. And I'm always apprehensive about where to sit. I kind of wait until other people are seated before I find a place.
Yeah, it really is always, whenever you have a joint worship, people have their seat for this service and their seat for this service.
Happens to be the same seat.
And and it's the same seat, so I'm surprised we haven't had fights.
Back in the day.
So
we
something
almost
has to give.
Pardon?
So something has to give, or somebody
Yes.
has to give.
Yes. So that's why we only do that once a year here.
did. We ended up we just had 2 recent joint services.
Oh, did we?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Let's continue. We're at verse 18.
You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, nor is the fat of my feast to remain overnight until morning. You shall bring the choice first fruits of your soil into the house of the Lord your God. You are not to boil a young goat in the milk of its mother. Behold, I am going to send an angel before you to guard you along the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Be on your guard before him and obey his voice. Do not be rebellious towards him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, since my name is in him. But if you truly obey his voice and do all that I say, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. For my angel will go before you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, the Hittites, the
Perizzites,
Perizzites, and the Canaanites, the
Hivites, and Jebusites.
Hivites and Jebusites, and I will completely destroy them. You shall not worship their gods, nor serve them, nor do according to their deeds, but you shall utterly overthrow them and break their sacred pillars in pieces. But you shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will remove sickness from your midst. There shall be no miscarrying or barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. I will send my terror ahead of you and throw into confusion all the people among whom you come, and I will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. I will send hornets ahead of you so that they will drive out the
Hittites,
Hivites.
Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites.
before you. Well, that one with the V looks like it should be pronounced a little differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I will not drive them out before you in a single year, that the land may not become desolate, and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. I will drive them out before you little by little, until you become fruitful and take possession of the land. I will fix your boundary from the Red Sea to the Sea of the Philistines, and from the wilderness to the river Euphrates, for I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you will drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them or with their gods. They shall not live in your land, because they will make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare to you.
Okay. I really like the way God is going to help these people conquer the land. It says, little by little, I'll get them out there while you have a chance to get your crops going and make your land, the land your own. I'm turning everyone in the living over, I'll drive them out. So what he's saying is, we're going to drive them out. We're going to push them down so you can grow. And that's why he says there'll be no barren or miscarries, because we need to have more people. They've been wandering that desert for a long time. They need more folks. So, God is going to help them get more people. Now, the other thing, I will make your border stretch from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, from the wilderness of the Euphrates River to the Euphrates River, turning everyone living in the land over to you. Go ahead and drive them out. The Jews still use this as saying, this is our land. Palestinians never had land. They were a people, but they were a people without land. And when, after World War II, we gave Israel to the Israelites, there were a lot of people screaming, what makes you think that should be their land? And they refer to Exodus. Now, another thing that is striking, and I want to share with you because I think it's important, said the land of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, and the Canaanites. Now, they went into Canaan, but the Hittites and the Amorites, remember that relationship that existed there?
Esau.
Esau. That was Esau's offspring that owned that land. Now, in the commentaries I've been looking at, there's a lot of reference. See, each one of those countries had their own history, their own scripture, and some of them were actually Jews. Some of the Hittites were Jews. I mean, they come from Esau. I mean, they are on that lineage, and they have their interpretation. So when a new interpretation of Scripture is made, the people who are doing it refer to the works of the Hittites and the Amorites, the Perizzites, and the Canaanites to get some information. So, you know, even though they're conquered, we still look back to find out. I mean, it's kind of like if you wanted to write a history of World War II, you'd also try to find some Nazi information. You know, what was Germany doing at this time? What was Japan doing at this time? We can't tell the story just from the American point of view. You know, and so what we're looking at, whenever they uncover some more scrolls, they have to say, hold on, let's compare, you know, what's being said. Now, they know some of it was not Judeo-Christian, but some of it clarifies some of the Judeo-Christian writings. You know, it's like that wonderful scene in The Longest Day, where Eisenhower is quoted as saying, you know, it was going to be raining, and they, waiting for the storm to be over. And Ike said, "This just makes you wonder whose side God is on." And then it showed the German headquarters, and the head of the Germans is saying, it makes you wonder what side God is on. So the Anglicans beat the Lutherans. Now, chapter 24.
I have a question about still in 23.
Mm-hmm.
In verse 20, it says, "I'm sending an angel."
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, pay attention and listen to what the angel says. Do we know about angels talking? Or did I forget something? Or?
No, remember the angels have always been mentioned in the Old Testament. Genesis, was it Jacob that wrestled with the angel?
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
the angels are messengers, so they can talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Maybe I just had never read that before and I was surprised.
No, well, it's one of those things. For me, and certainly this is not necessarily correct. Just keep in mind that I've got 3 master's degrees, one of them from an Episcopal seminary, and I've been ordained for over 50 years.
What other than that?
So listen up, right?
So whatever you want to make up, go ahead. I got over 50 years of making stuff up. It said, when he makes a reference to an angel like that, I'm inclined to think that's the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
I mean, it's God's Spirit, because we know that
Oh, yeah. And then
that God had the Spirit with him, and the triune God had all those aspects. So God doesn't really reveal himself except, and again, I was surprised when I read chapter 24. I thought, wow, I forgot this. So Kathy?
I think that God was still out of sorts with him over the golden calf, and he didn't want to speak to him directly, so he sent the angel instead.
Well, we don't have the golden calf yet. That comes up later.
Oh, I thought it was before this.
No.
Well,
But it's interesting because we get into chapter 24, we're going to find out who does God speak to?
Okay.
Shocking, because it's not something that we usually think about. So,
Ready?
ready, spoil the surprise.
Then he said to Moses, "Come up to the Lord, you and Aaron,
Nadab and
Na-
Abihu.
Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and you shall worship at a distance. Moses alone, however, shall come near to the Lord, but they shall not come near, nor shall the people come up with him." Then Moses came and recounted to the people all the words of the Lord and all the ordinance, and all the people answered with one voice and said, "All the words which the Lord has spoken, we will do." Moses wrote down all the words of the Lord. Then he arose early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain, with 12 pillars for the 12 tribes of Israel. He sent young men to the sons of Israel, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificed young bulls as peace offerings to the Lord. Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and the other half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar.
Hold on for just a minute. I just have to comment about, because I don't want to forget this.
That's right.
Can you imagine the Alder Guild going berserk when they see him sprinkling blood on the altar? My God, you spill a little wine on there, and you'll hear about it for the rest of your ministry. So, go ahead.
Then he took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of the people, and they said, "All that the Lord has spoken we will do, and we will be obedient." So Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, "Behold the blood of the covenant which the Lord has made with you in accordance with all these words."
Okay, this is like communion in some ways. I mean, when Moses took the rest of the blood throughout, people saying, "This is the blood of the covenant which God has made with you out of all these words I have spoken." And what do we say when we pass the cup? The blood of Christ shed for you, or the blood of Christ, the cup of salvation. So, that heart, I don't mean to imply that this was the first communion, but it is the first part of a ritual that eventually became communion. That this blood thing was very important. So, okay, and remember, that Alder Guild must have just been beside themselves.
How about Mama when you get home with all your garments?
Well, yeah. Yeah. You sure didn't want to wear a white coat or a white vest that day.
Is this the first time it mentioned the Book of the Covenant?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Where'd that thing come from?
Well, that's what we just read. The
Oh, okay, so
those previous verses or chapters,
or the Book of
that was the Book of the Covenant.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now, and again, 70. 70. That's an important number. There were 70 people. Remember when the gospel on Sunday, Jesus sent out
70.
70. Although it says 72, but that gets translated 70 in some places, 72 in other places. But 70, that is 7 times 10. 7 being a holy number. How long did it take God to create the world? 7 days, or 6 days, and he rested on the 7th. You see that 7 showing up everywhere. How many different parts of the world were there?
10.
7.
Oh, 7.
There were 7. When at Pentecost, when everyone started speaking in their own tongue, and it said people could hear their own tongue, how many different tongues were there?
7.
70. In the book of Acts, it's 70 different tongues. So this number 70 keeps popping up. And again, I appreciate that book because every time I see a number, I dig into
Oh,
it.
good.
And so, 7 times 10. 10 is sort of the symbol of perfection. Now, I'll give you another thing on 7. During morning prayer, we don't light the 2 candles on the altar. Maybe you do here.
No.
But what candles do you light? The 6 that are in the back. Those 6 candles. There's actually 7. Because we count the cross as a candle. Because the cross symbolizes the light of Christ. So, the same thing would be true when we light the 2 on the altar. That's actually 3. Because you've got the triune God, the cross that hangs over the altar would be the 3rd. The same thing in the Lutheran Church. Emmanuel has that cross on the back wall and 2 altar candles. You say, how many candles are lit? 3. The acolyte only actually lights 2 of them, but that number 3. Very important number. Very important number. So anyway, let's go on because now we're getting some good stuff here. Not that the other stuff hasn't been good.
Okay, then Moses went up with Aaron, Nahab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the God of Israel, and under his feet there appeared to be a pavement of sapphire as clear as the sky itself. Hang on.
That's the thing about Bible pages.
I know. You don't want to come down. Yet he did not stretch out his hand against the nobles of the sons of Israel. And they saw God, and they ate and drank.
Okay, let's stop you again.
Okay.
Too bad the page turn didn't come up at this time.
Right.
How many people have seen God?
72.
74.
74. Moses, Aaron,
Yeah.
Nadab,
Abihu.
Abihu, and 70 of the elders.
Mhm.
Now, what have we always been taught?
No
Look for
one
God, you
sees.
die.
That's
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And Moses saw God in the burning bush. He saw God as in the symbolism. But now he's up on this mountain, and they say not only did they see him, but they could see the sapphire street he was standing on. So, when we think, how did we come up with this heaven has streets of gold? Well, you could think that. Here we think that God was standing up on that mountain on a pavement of blue sapphires. And I gotta tell you, sapphire is a beautiful stone. It's a beautiful stone. So, and it says he didn't hurt those pillar leaders of Israel. They saw God. They ate and drank. You look surprised.
I don't think I've ever read this part. And I'm still hung up on when he built an altar, it was 7 pillars. I just thought it was one little pile of stones, but 7 pillars. And I guess I never focused on this chapter before.
A lot of people don't.
This
I mean-
is exciting.
Again, the 7 pillars, that number 7,
That's what-
stands important.
Wait, it was 12. Or 12 stone pillars.
Okay, and that would be the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yeah. I guess I just thought it was 12 stones in one thingy. So, sorry.
It just depends which architectural plan you're reading.
Yes, I was probably reading the wrong version.
Yes. Okay, now we're going to get to Moses and his relationship with God.
Now the Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and remain there, and I will give you the stone tablets with the law and the commandment which I have written for their instruction." So Moses arose with Joshua his servant, and Moses went up to the mountain of God. But to the elders he said, "Wait here for us until we return to you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a legal matter, let him approach them." Then Moses went up to the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory of the Lord rested on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. And on the 7th day he called to Moses from the midst of the cloud. And to the eyes of the sons of Israel, the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like a consuming fire on the mountaintop. Moses entered the midst of the cloud as he went up to the mountain, and Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights.
Okay, before we get into chapter 25, how many days was it, the cloud?
7.
7 days. So, here's the number 7 popping out again. And we find out there are a couple other people who were up on that mountain. Obviously, Joshua, if he's the aide to Moses, he must have been one of the 7 because he's not mentioned. And the same thing with Aaron Hur. So now they're up on that mountain, and Moses stays on that mountain 70 days, 40 days, 40 days.
Yeah.
40 days and 40
And
nights.
again, 40, how long did Jesus go out into the wilderness for the
40
temptation?
days and 40 nights.
40 days and nights. So
Length of Lent.
the length of Lent. I mean,
So they borrowed it from our tradition.
yeah. Yes, the writers of this were obviously Anglicans.
The other way around.
Yeah. So here we have, Moses up there 40 days, and chapter 25 starts off by saying, God spoke to Moses, tell the Israelite that they are to set aside offerings for me. So now, where God talked to the 74 while they were eating and drinking, he's had Moses come up, and he's saying to Moses, tell them that they have to set aside an offering for me. Who do you think the author of a lot of this text is? The Elwes, Yahweh, or the priestly writer?
One was the Elwes, because they're flowery.
Yes.
Details.
Well, the Yahweh is the one that's a lot of symbolism. But a lot of rules come from the priestly writer. So here, where we've got this symbolism, the cloud on the mountain and all that certainly is Yahweh. But all those rules in the Book of the Covenant, those more than likely were priestly writings. A lot of them were added afterward. I mean, this is not contemporaneous. Somebody was reading it and they said, oh, we got some stuff over here about how to treat servants. Why don't we stick it over here with, and so they just get added. And, we don't know the difference. Okay, now we're going to go into some carpentry.
Okay. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Tell the sons of Israel to raise a contribution for me from every man whose heart moves him you shall raise my contribution. This is the contribution which you are to raise from them: gold, silver, and bronze, blue, purple, and scarlet material from linen, goat hair, ram skins dyed red, porpoise skins, acacia wood, oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incense, onyx stones and setting stones for the ephod and for the breastpiece. Let them construct a sanctuary for me, that I may dwell among them, according to all that I am going to show you as the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its furniture, just so you shall construct it.
Okay, just a brief pause. Where do these people have all this stuff?
That's the
You know,
There weren't trees in the desert.
No, and there certainly weren't any dolphins. The message says dolphin skins. You know, and they've got all these dyes and, you know, bronze, gold. They may have had a little gold and silver, but, you know, blue, purple, and scarlet material, fine linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, dolphin skins, acacia wood, oil lamp, spices for anointing, oils for fragrant incense, onyx stones and other stones for setting in the ephod and the breastplate. Let them construct a sanctuary for me, that I can live among them.
He's restricting himself, that sounds like to me.
Yes, that's a very good point. He's saying, they're going to build this place for me. This is the God of all creation. How's he going to live in that spot? And then when we get to building,
Everybody knows he's here at the Episcopal Church.
yeah, he's in that thing under the light in the sanctuary.
We're
So-
gonna get all this next part 2 times.
Yes, well, we get all this stuff
Because
2
we get the
times.
instructions to make it, and then they tell it over as they're making it.
Yeah. So let's start with the chest.
Okay. They shall construct an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, and 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. You shall overlay it with pure gold, inside and out. You shall overlay it, and you shall make a gold molding around it. You shall cast 4 gold rings for it, and fasten them on its 4 feet. And 2 rings shall be on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. You shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. You shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark, to carry the ark with them. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark. They shall not be removed from it. You shall put into the ark the testimony which I shall give you. You shall make a mercy seat of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long, and 1.5 cubits wide. You shall make 2 cherubim of gold, make them of hammered work at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. Make 1 cherub at one end, and 1 cherub at the other end. You shall make the cherub of 1 piece of the mercy seat at its 2 ends. The cherubim shall have their wings spread upward, covering the mercy seat with their wings and facing one another. The faces of the cherubim are to be turned toward the mercy seat. You shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the testimony which I will give you. There I will meet with you, and from above the mercy seat, from between the two cherubim which are upon the ark of the testimony, I will speak to you about all that I will give you in commandment for the sons of Israel. You shall make a table of
Okay, let's pause there because
acacia wood.
this.
Acacia.
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 Now, if you're not sure what this looks like,
I'll never get that.
oh, Warren's got a picture.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good.
I've got a picture too.
How come I don't?
Mine's probably different. Mine's probably different than his.
Well, if you want to see what it really looks like, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That's it. That one's in color.
But I like they got the two poles. They don't come out, and you got the angels on the end, and what goes inside it?
Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah. Well, that's where it is. It's in the CIA warehouse now. But inside is the Ten Commandments.
Commandments.
Because he said, speaking the commandments that I have for Israel. So,
The structure and the way they would carry it reminds me of a coffin.
yes.
Oh.
I mean, they have those pictures.
And this gets mentioned a whole lot in Scripture. Because remember, when David ascended to the throne, he was the one who united the northern and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom had the Ark of the Covenant. The southern kingdom had the tent of meeting. And David danced naked in front of the Ark of the Covenant as they took it down the road and put it in the tent of meeting. And remember, while he's dancing along the street, one of the guys that's dancing with him lost his balance. He tripped and he touched the ark, and he died, didn't he? So,
What's the significance that he was dancing naked? He'd be put in prison now.
Maybe it was to distract, so they wouldn't even realize that was being moved.
so
He didn't have an ace up his sleeve.
no, now it would end up on Pornhub or whatever. So this story continues all the way into later chapters of the Old Testament. So we will pick up with verse 23, talking about the table, and then there's the lampstand, and then the dwelling. So, and this is a precursor to the temple.
So there's people wandering around the desert and all the craftsmen go on there.
I know.
Their foundries and all the tools to make this stuff.
I'm wondering, the good Lord certainly didn't make life easy for him.